Hey guys, it's Wags with Ironman 4x4, and today is an amazing day because we are finally revealing the install video on the Tundra front raid bumpers. These things are amazing. So without further ado, I give you the new... Clint, get the heck out of here! This is the Tundra. We're gonna rip the stock bumper off and put the new raid bumper on. Let's get going. So obviously we're not on my garage floor, which is fine, and you can do your install there if you'd like, but we're in our new Ironman 4x4 North American headquarters. We've got the Tundra up on a big 12K lift. So if you're using a lift, make sure you use safety in your brains. And if you're working on a garage floor, make sure the truck is in park, e-brakes on, chock your rear tires. Go ahead and lift the truck up off the ground. We're doing a bumper install, but it's always nice to pull the front wheels and tires off. That way we have access to get all of our inner fender liners out. Trust me, it's just better that way. Why? It just is. It just does. Let's get the inner fender liners behind our bumper out. You've got two 10mm screws right here, and then grab a body clip removal tool and we'll pop that guy out there. Now underneath, on the front of the fender liner, you can see I modified mine so I could clear 35s, but you're gonna have a couple 13s and a 10 right there. So we'll pull that 10 out. There you go. Perfect. And same thing over here on our passenger side. Oh. One there. Okay, so I'm running our Ironman 4x4 underbody armor, and I've got the stock bumper secured on that side with a zip tie, and the passenger side with a zip tie, and the center tab is tucked in up here on the center bolt. So I will grab a 13mm socket. Cool. These three plastic tabs from the bumper, they can all now slide out. And we might need to loosen these too, just so that it's not clamped down and pinching it. There we go. Cool. Since we've got the truck in the air, let's get these stock recovery points off. Grab a 17mm socket. We'll rip those bad boys out. We'll get this passenger one off too. Now we got to unhook our fog lights, and we got a connector here on the driver's side. Just pops right down like that. And grab your clip removal tool, slide under there, pop that out so it's hanging free, because when you drop your bumper, you don't want to be tearing all these wires apart. And for all you dudicles with nudicles, I'll show you how to get this clip out. Push on that tab real hard with your thumb, and you can pull down. Slides right out. Grab your clip removal tool, get that guy pried out of there. Now that we've got the fog lights unhooked, I think we can cheat this. So stick with me, camera guy. If we just slap chop these three bolts off here, they're 14s, and there's one on the inside, right in there, which we can get get our ratchet up in there. Same on driver, same on passenger. I think this whole assembly comes off, so let's give it a try. So we will loosen these with the 14. Come on. Yeah, you don't have a lot of throw here. You got a swivel head ratchet, makes it nice. Now let's grab that one on the inside. You swing in here, that makes number 4. All right, let's go loosen everything on the passenger side. We'll break these guys loose too. All right, and we will come around the inside of the frame and we'll get this guy on the inside. Ugh. You can even use a ratcheting wrench. It speeds things up quite a bit. I have the power! All right, I don't want to make this one of those weird toy unboxing videos that your kids are constantly watching and wasting all their screen time on. So I've got everything laid out. We've got our recovery points. These fit up here on our winch tray. we're gonna get the winch tray bolted on the truck first. These are inner shim plates. We've got our license plate mount, which is sick because it's a flip up. It sandwiches in between the hawse of our winch. If you don't want to run a winch, you can just bolt this on the front, leave your plate down, makes it nice. We've got our dog bones that tie in with our frame, brackets for our light bar. You can run the front light bar with or without this grill. I think the grill looks sick. A little extra protection too. Hardware pack. And if you have the parking sensors on your truck, we gave you a kit so you can get those all mounted in. Now, my SR5 doesn't have them, so we won't be doing that, but it's pretty straightforward. Before you put your winch tray on, you see this guy right here, this cooler? See how it's mounted here and here? Well, take this spacer, undo these 12mm bolts. I already put one in over there. Slide one in here, lock it down. This will space the cooler mounts up just enough so when we put the winch tray on in this region here, it will allow us a clearance so it won't touch. So remember when we took our stock bumper off, these flanged nuts, grab 2 of them, have them at the ready. Grab your winch tray. Oh, it's not the lightest thing in the world, but slide it on like that. Positively reinforce it. And then we can just get one of those started there and one over here on the passenger side. And then when the range is cold, you can let it hang. See all that clearance? That's why we use those spacers there to move our cooler up and out of the way of that winch tray. So I've got all my hardware laid out. It's nice to organize it so you can kind of tell what goes with what. But some of these things are really close. Like these washers here have a bigger ID and these here have a smaller ID. So you've got 10 of the bigs and 8 of the smalls. So we're gonna grab these 8 and these are the washers that we're gonna use for bolting on our winch tray. So we've got our flat washers that we provided and we've got our OEM flange nuts. We'll throw a washer on, followed by the nut. And we're just gonna kind of spin it down there, leave it loose. And we'll do that on the inside, and then we got 3 on the outside. Washer, back on. All right, we got our outside washers and nuts finger tight out here. Leave the inner ones off for the last because we need to align the winch tray left to right. And the way you can do that is you can see here these studs and the slotted holes in the winch tray, and we can basically get it marked up so that we're as dead nuts as we can get. Once we're set there, we'll lift up on the bottom of the tray, go slow. There we go. And then if you come back here, you can see that it's still lined up. All right, I don't want to tighten it up too much. And then you can always grab like a dead blow. Things are a little loose. We can knock it around and get it perfect. All right, just one more little recap. Again, the way that the winch tray mounts to the flange of your frame, it's slotted so that the winch tray itself has your left to right adjustment in it, right? Okay, so we all get that. So that's why when we're tightening these guys, we want to leave them tight but a little bit loose because we also have a reinforcement bolt that's going to fit right through the front of your frame mounting flange, and that's tied together with this dog bone right here. Now, this hole here on the backside has a plastic cap from Toyota. So you can grab that bolt, stick it right through, and just give it a good hit, and that cap will pop right out. So grab your long bolt from Ironman, throw a split washer or spring washer, flat washer, grab your dog bone, and you want the threaded hole facing towards the outside of your frame. We'll run the bolt through here, let it hang. I get my left hand up behind here on the frame. I can guide it through. It drops right down into those notches. And then a little bit of guessing, but there you go. Spin it. Once it grabs a couple threads, and then you can see here how that dog bone, as you tighten it down, you don't want it back here. It's, you know, going to pull forward. So you want to thread it down so that it pulls it towards the front. So you have 5 points of tension on each side of this winch tray. It's important to have all 5 of them finger tight. That way when you're going to make your adjustments, everything will kind of suck down together. When you're tightening this through bolt to the back of the dog bone, the easiest way I've found to do it is grab an 18mm wrench and we'll tighten this guy down. And you can kind of cant it at an angle, because we're trying to avoid these studs here. And you can get it pretty much locked down. But getting a socket and a ratchet in there, not really gonna happen. Then once it's nice and tight, you can switch over to your open end side of your wrench and carefully snug it down. And we want it tight, but again, you're using a spring washer here. So once that spring washer flattens out, you don't want to go too much tighter, because if it opens up, then it's useless. You've just basically turned it into a flat washer. Another great feature Ironman 4x4 builds into each one of its ExoRaid bumpers is this crumple zone area right here. Gives you the confidence that when you've got your family on board with you, that if something did happen, you're rolling around with the safest bumper on your truck. To get these beefy recovery points on, we're gonna need a combination of some OEM hardware that we took off the truck earlier, and 4 of these big bolts right here from Ironman 4x4. So we've got our bolts, spring washers and flat washers laid out. Go grab your lash down hook and pull, whoa, where'd that go? And grab these 2 guys. This part's easy because these recovery points are only gonna bolt on one way. So we're gonna start with our driver's side, and we'll just hand tighten in a couple of these guys, and then we'll let it hang. Leave everything nice and loose so you can get it adjusted. Now we're gonna grab our OEM hardware for underneath, and we'll get these guys started. Grab those last 2 Ironman bolts, and we'll go up underneath the winch tray on the inside of the frame. So to get these locked down, you're gonna need 2 sockets. Grab a 17 for the OEM hardware up underneath. And we're gonna go slow, and then we'll swap out for an 18. If you are gonna run a Ironman 4x4 monster winch on your ExoRaid bumper on your Tundra, you're gonna have to do one step on the winch, and it's you gotta reclock it. See the clutch handle here? You wanna make sure this clutch handle is in the 12 o'clock position or strig it up. So grab a 6mm Allen, and we'll pull these 2 cap screws out. There's one. Bend that out of the way. All right. And then we want to be extra genteel. Cool. And then we're going to break this guy out just like that. Oh, it's like disarming a nuke. That was awesome. It's okay to disassemble this stuff with power tools, but when you put it back together, you do not want to be tightening it down that way. It is BAD bad and can ruin things. Now grab a 3mm Allen, and we will pull all these guys out. All right, all 10 are loosened. Grab yourself a nice soft hammer or a dead blow hammer, and we need a little bit of help to break the seal loose. That's all it takes. So now we're going to turn it. And for me, that's 12 o'clock. For you, it might be around 6:15. You're late for dinner. Cool, line it back up. So the reason why I tapped it loose from the side and not straight up is because you want to break that tension on this gasket under here. So let me remove the cover plate. This right here is a nice soft nitrile gasket. This gasket here is what keeps your gear housing waterproof. So if you do happen to tear it, you need to apply silicone or some sort of sealant or replace the gasket. And now we can start to put our Allen heads back in. You grab yourself a 3mm Allen wrench. We'll spin these guys down. Another little trick you can do is take a shop rag or a paper towel or a piece of garbage or something fairly clean, and wrap it around inside here, because you don't want these little washers to fall down in there. Because if they do, then you got to go get a magnet and get them out. Also, I'm really just finger tightening these, or not even finger tightening, just getting them down, because what we have to do is, once we're ready to tighten them, it's just like putting on an oil pan or a trans pan or a valve cover. You want to tighten in a star pattern so that the load is spread evenly across the entire mounting surface. All right, so we've got all of our little tin Allens finger tight down. We're going to pull this rag out of the way. And then as we tighten them down, when we loosened them, you kind of get a feel for how tight they were. We're going to start at the top. We're going to put about 5 to 8 foot-pounds on there. Feels good. So 12 o'clock's tightened. And anytime I tighten more than 5 bolts in a pattern, I forget. So I'm just going to mark it with a silver Sharpie so I know which ones I've tightened. We'll drop down to 6 o'clock. Again, it's not a ton of torque, but if you tighten in a star pattern, you'll spread the load evenly on the mounting surface. So we've gone here, here, we'll come up here, and the last one. Double check them. Yep. All right, we're ready to get this thing put back together. So straight up, top of the winch is right here. We're gonna come over the top. Nice and easy, because it's got to fit down over that seal. Sometimes you got to wiggle it back and forth just a little bit. And that was too cool for school. All right. We'll grab these number 6s. Line up this bar. Sometimes you got to flex these support bars just a little bit to get it to line up. Right on, tighten that down, and you have just reclocked your winch. All right, so we fast forwarded ahead a little bit because I installed one of our monster winches. It's a 12K, which is perfect for this size of truck. So if you're putting a winch on, go ahead, get that all dialed in and buttoned up. So now all I gotta do is unwrap the bumper shell. We're gonna get the lights installed. We'll get the hardware all laid out, because you wanna do a little, buttoning up and getting the lights set the way you want. When that's all ready to go, all we gotta do is hang it, and it's 6 bolts. We're gonna get our lights installed. Over here, they come with this little finish plate, and that bolts in and out, which is nice, because if you wanna just run 2 lights here, you can do that, or if you wanna run 3, we've given you lots of room there. These are the little provisions for the parking sensors, if those come with your truck. So you can just pop these caps out, get your parking sensors put in. My SR5 doesn't have them, so I'm gonna leave these caps in. I like that the black caps, like the finish is the same as the powder coat, so they look really, really seamless, and you really don't see them until you get right up on it. So looks really, really clean. All right, let's pull the top deck plates off. You're gonna need a number 4 Allen key and a 10mm wrench for the backside there. Break it loose, We'll get these guys off of here. We have 4 sets. Let's pull these wings off because we're going to add that extra light position in there. And this, we got to be extra careful because when we pull it out, that thing is coming out. And you know what I do? So let's say down the road I decide that, you know what, maybe I want to put it back on. You know, or maybe somebody made fun of me. Maybe someone's like, hey man, that 3 light setup, that's stupid. 2's where it's at. Well, guess what? I got my hardware. I put this wing back on. I'll tuck it away in a safe place. I'll put it in some sort of Rubbermaid bin that's weatherproof or resistant that says Tundra parts. All right, so now we're gonna take our Bright Saber 32-inch light bar. It's dual row from Ironman 4x4, and we'll get it installed. I'm gonna run mine with this cool grill over the front. And so what we wanna do is this grill caps right over the front of the light bar. Like that. Fits nice and snug. And then we can set it face down. And then we're gonna grab these brackets here that came with the hardware kit. And the slotted side goes down on the mounts, and the up and down slotted side goes on the edge of the light bar. We'll grab our hardware and we'll get it bolted on, and those fit on the outside. All right, so we'll run our hardware right through the brackets like that. We'll get it snugged down, do the same thing on the other side. We'll grab a 13 and just snug it down a little bit. All right, we got the light bar and the grill laid down into the opening. Now we're gonna grab our other hardware. I'll set this up. Split washer, flat washer. We'll spin this together. Do the same thing on the other side. And now we can mock up and see how this is gonna look. Ooh, look at that. Gee likey. Nice. So, we'll try to get this guy positioned. I actually want to set it as far back in the bumper as I can, just because, you know, you don't want the first thing when you run into something to be your light bar. So once we've got the front of this light bar lined up the way we want it, if you come over here on the back side, grab a 13, and there's a serrated flange nut on the bottom, so we should be able to just tighten the bolt down from this side here. So we'll just work on getting it a little more tight. Now that we've got the left to right and front to back locked down here, we can actually set the tilt, the up and down tilt of our light bar. So it's a 13. And we'll get that snug too. We'll go to the passenger side. All right, we'll lock down this passenger side too. I'm kind of pushing the light as far to the rear as I can get it. When you tighten these down, just be careful, because if you ream on them, it's gonna change the positioning of the light beam as far as, you know, pointing up and down your height. But if you go slow, it'll stick where you want it to. Okay, when it comes to adjusting your light bar with the angle on your height, we can still install this bumper shell and leave the top plates off. Then you can get in here and you can adjust them. So it's super easy. Even if you want to get the whole thing on your truck, wait for nighttime, go out to a big parking lot or out to the desert and pick a spot out on the horizon where you want the light to point. You can just, it's going to be 4 bolts, pop off that top plate, get in here with a 13. You can get it adjusted. Makes it really, really nice. All right, now we're going to get our Saber pod lights hooked up, so you put your brackets on. I like to run my brackets this way, slanted back, but they'll run the other way. It just pushes the light out a little bit further. Somebody named Clint never told me that. And what's nice about the Tundra bumper is you've got enough room in between the lights that you can still get an Allen wrench in there to get them tightened down. So I'll pull that back a little bit and get this started. Once that bolt head is in between those 2 shoulders, then you can just start working on that nylock nut. And the nut is a 13. And so I'm pulling back on the light to keep everything tight. spin that down. Once we get the bumper hung, we can always take the top plates off to get in to adjust them, or you can get up behind the wheel well with a 13 and adjust them. You know, you're not going to lock yourself into a bad position, so don't feel like you have to have your final adjustments on these light pods done. All right, now I'll get these ambers installed. You know, but before I do, we always joke, me and the guys around the shop, we always put this bracket on before we put the mounting bolt through, and I don't know why you would think after 100 times we would learn that lesson, but we don't. So when you go to put the bracket on, always run your bolt through the bracket, then put the bracket on the light. So here's a free tip. Don't trick yourself into throwing a 13 gear wrench on here, because as you tighten it down, you will literally trap your wrench in there. So unfortunately, this one is just going to take some time. So we're going to have to just go low and slow. All right, so I'm just going to put together these work lights. These are our amber work lights, and I'm going to put them out on the edge of the wings and probably wire them up as a turn signal. I think that'd look kind of cool and be extra safe. So you want a number 4 Allen wrench and a number 8 millimeter box end wrench. And we'll get those snug there. We remembered to put our mounting bolt in first. Got a spring washer and a nut. Fit that right through there. I'll finish getting this snug down, and then we're going to go do the same thing on the other side. All right, lights are in and they look really good. So now we just got to get our license plate bracket and our Boss Hog fair lead. We'll drop this big dog right in through there. Cool. Now we need to tilt the bumper up and be careful that these guys don't fall out. We'll throw on flat washer, split washer, and the nut. All right, the Allen on the front is an 8, but I'm not even going to hook it up to a wrench, because usually I can get this just to bite down, which I did. Spin it on with the 19 on the back side. Do you see this nut plate? Well, you have 2 of them. I'll show you where they go. Now that we're getting ready to hang the bumper shell, this guy drops right in here. It's got that nice little handle to keep it from falling out. We'll take the other one, drop it in. Now we can grab the bumper shell and get ready to hang it on. Also, make sure you got a little bit of slack hanging out here, because once we hang the bumper shell up, we want to feed this through. So I'm going to actually tuck that guy back in there just like that, out of the way, because you don't have to get pinched. Come on, man. All right, let's get this thing hung. Thanks for the help, Clint. So Clint and I each had hardware ready to go. So make sure you at least walk over with 1 bolt, and you want to feed it through, line it up, and hit that C-shaped nut plate on the back side. Once you get a few threads, Clint, you good? All right, if you feed that through, perfect, you nailed it. You got a thread? Heck yeah, you did. So grab yourself an extension, a 17 millimeter socket. I got a wobbler on there too, and you can go through the front of this inner light, and you got a straight shot at it to get these bad boys all tightened down. So we'll get 3 snug on this side, 3 on the other, and then it's just kind of a matter of finessing it to where you want it. This all's got to come up to quite a bit. Leave yourself a nice gap too, because you got soft body mounts and you definitely don't want to beat up your paintwork. All right, we've got it adjusted left to right, looks really good. Now we're going to get the top plate, the top deck back on. We'll get it bolted back down, and that's all there is to it. The Exo-Raid bumper is on the Tundra. It looks great. I am so stoked to go out and use this thing. One thing, I had a buddy help me on our adjustment, because you want to make sure you've got a nice wide gap here between the bumper and the body, because you don't want to damage your bodywork. You know, this bolts to the frame and your body's on soft, you know, rubbery body mounts, so you're going to get a bunch of flex. So double check that too. I hope this video helped you get your Exo-Raid bumper installed on your Tundra. And if you're watching this video trying to just get, you know, build up the gumption to buy one, Come check us out at Ironman4x4America.com. We also have a lot of customer service agents and technical support that you can call at 971-264-9016. You can live chat us on the website too, or you can check us out at YouTube's, Facebook, and Instagram. See you guys.